We're CGA Technologies, so we're a consultancy. We're part of the Corus International family, and we're dedicated to using data to improve service delivery, particularly in education and health and social protection. A lot of what we do is we work with governments, national governments, often in sub-Saharan Africa, but beyond. And we support them to to use data to improve the way that service is delivered and to make sure that populations can better access those services.
There are a lot of people who have said that data is the new oil, and to your point, a lot of governments are leveraging that data to improve services for their people. When it comes to data, Africans are not collecting enough data.
There really is a lack of data, or at least of good quality data, in most of the places that we work. Data is, of course, very valuable, and the data, especially of a lot of the people that we work with, a lot of the people that we support governments to collect data on, often are, the most vulnerable in societies, children, vulnerable people. And so the data of those people is a really precious resource, and there's a much higher responsibility to protect and to use that data responsibly. But certainly the lack of data is a big problem, and it means that governments can't adequately plan for and deliver services as effectively as they need to. We see examples in education, for example, of governments just not really able to plan and deliver education services well, because they really just actually don't have a clear picture of who the children are, the learners are that they're trying to reach, how many they are and where they are.
What type or kind of data are we talking about?
Great question. So for example, in the education sphere, which I just mentioned, we do a lot of work with governments in education in Sierra Leone and in South Sudan. Similarly in the health sector and in the social protection sector, who collect data on schools, on teachers, on learners in the classroom. But often what they're doing is they're collecting data on an annual basis. So maybe once a year, they'll do a survey where they'll have enumerators visit each school, and they'll kind of just take a note of what's happening at that school on a given day, the teachers who were there, the condition of the school on that day, the number of learners who were there. And what it means is the government are using that survey, those survey results, to plan for what they need to budget for, how they need to manage their resources for the rest of the year. But what they're using as a result of that is they might just have aggregate numbers of learners in a classroom. And what that really means when you break it down is that you don't know if you have the same children who start at the beginning of an academic year as finish. What we're saying and what we're doing and how we're supporting governments is by saying you need to have much more data, you need to generate much more data, and then you really need to figure out how you're going to use that in a more effective way to plan and deliver services.
One of the things that I see as a challenge is how they input data. Most people are still writing on a piece of paper and put it in a folder and stack it away. Are we talking about different inputs of data, let's say using technology to do that in some of these places that you operate?
But we're often working, in rural healthcare centres or schools in hard-to-reach areas. Working with, teachers, at the last mile, where digital literacy might be quite low, of course, is a challenge. However, the world is increasingly digitalized, and actually, mostly what we find is that people have, a really high degree of interest in wanting to learn these skills. And actually, we really find when people understand the value of data and what it means for them, not just that it's being reported to go somewhere else, but that they can see the benefits themselves. They can understand their trends. They can understand how their school is performing, or they can, a healthcare center can make sure that its payroll is being regularly updated, and they know who is meant to be working at their facility on a day-to-day basis. We find that even where digital literacy is low, and that can be a struggle, and our staff and the government officials we work with, sometimes do have to do some basic IT training as part of their work. people are very willing to learn, and especially where they see, a real world impact.